yourselves.
Hi, and welcome to another Genshin video. And I am back with another Skyward Harp bow comparison video, and this time it's with Best Boy Venti. Now this time around I will be comparing an R2 stringless with an R5 Windbloom Ode and finally my R1 Skyward Harp, all at level 90. But before we dive right in, I should point out that this video will be a mix of scripted post-production dialogue as well as on-stream dialogue, as I tested this during one of my live streams. And if you want to be a part of my next test, I stream on YouTube, so you'll easily be able to find out when I'm streaming by hitting that subscribe button and clicking on the notification bell. Now let's begin with Venti's artifacts and talents. Okay, and I should probably show my artifacts as well, which is rolled pretty decently for Venti. This piece, although no crit, I rolled on energy recharge and attacks and elemental mastery, so this was a keeper. For most of my supporting characters, I only level up artifacts to level 16 because it's just more efficient that way, so I can like spread my resources around on other characters. This one actually rolled pretty well on the critical damage, and this one energy recharge, not bad. And Anemo damage is decent on the crit rate, not too great on the HP, but you know, gotta take what you can. And then finally I have a crit rate circlet, which is pretty good, except for the flat defense and the lack of critical damage. Then Constellation 0, and talents are 3, 8, 8. And to start things off, we'll start with the weapon I've been using on him the most, the stringless. This is the stats. Not bad. 50% crit rate for a support character is pretty good for me. A bit low on the crit damage to get that 2-to-1 ratio, but that's fine because I kind of focused a little more on energy recharge. I believe ideally you want to reach 170% energy recharge with Venti. I could be wrong on that. And then of course some Anemo damage bonus because of artifacts and goblet piece. Okay, let's just start off with his E real quickly. 9.5k, and should I do a hold? Let's try this. 13k, and then about 4k on the plunge attack. Okay, and hopefully my burst won't get an element, but we'll see how that goes. It might get electro or pyro. Okay, I can't really. Okay, 1295 on the regular Anemo damage, and then what is that, 1500? So for that test run, I tried to focus looking at damage output done on the treasure hoarders, mostly because more damage would be done on them than the Fatui enemies, and I like to see bigger numbers. And assassins are way too difficult to accurately hit. Since Venti is mostly used as a support, I opted not to test out his normal attacks. Not to mention his talent level for his normal attack is only at level 3 on my Venti. Things get a little messy when I use his burst, as there was a lot of numbers going over top each other, and the numbers I was saying in the stream were accurate, but it is unclear if the 1295 Anemo hits and the 1512 Pyro Swirls were on the treasure hoarders or the Sissons. So some of the damage comparisons between weapons might be a little messy for the bursts moving forward. Also, the footage you are currently watching does contain a Barbara with Thrilling Tales of the Dragon equipped, so Venti may occasionally be getting an attack boost from her, as well as the subsequent flips with this team using other bows.
Let's play! Brace yourselves! Let's play! Let the show begin! Nice and spicy! Odds reveal!
Next, we have the Windbloom Ode. Okay, so with Windbloom Ode, I'm at 1657, and everything else should be relatively the same. And boom. Again, crit rate, crit damage is the same because it only affects Elemental Mastery at 357. Energy recharge at 152 still, and Anemo damage is all the same. And that is with Windbloom Ode, which happens to be exactly the same as Stringless. Okay, neutral, 9k? 9.1k, so that's less. Okay, and then let's try and get... Wow! Okay, well that was 12k. Okay, and that did 4.7k on the, that thing. Okay, now I just need to build out my burst. Okay, burst up. Let's do this. Okay, that's doing 1084, and then I saw like 1183 on the electro damage. So with these results, I can say that the R2 Stringless is in fact stronger than an R5 Windbloom Ode on Venti. One thing that could possibly make the test a little muddy is the passive skills of each bow making some slight differences in the results, but the damage output between the two should still have Stringless coming on top.
Brace yourselves. Boba, get them. Think you can get away? Let the show begin. Wings of darkness, come, step. Nice and spiky. Yahoo! Over here. Brace yourselves. Out of the frying pan. Oz revealed.
And finally, let's take a look at Skyward Harp. And finally, we have Skyward Harp, and attack is now at 1957, which is quite a boost. However, Elemental Mastery does drop down to 191. That being said, crit rate is now at a nice 72%, while crit damage also gets a little bit of a boost by 20% thanks to its passive at 96%, which is still not quite at that 1-to-2 ratio, but it is still more damage. Everything else remains the same.
Brace yourselves.
Boom, 10k. Already, that is higher. Hands down. Already, doing more damage. And let's hold it. 7k. And, of course, I die again. I did not see how much damage that did, so let's do that again. Was that 6k? That went by a little too quickly. Okay, let's try this again.
Let's play.
Oh, wait. 2k. Okay, burst up.
Time for takeoff.
5k, thanks. What? I can't tell. Okay, 1432 and 1229 is numbers that I saw for that one. And there we have it. R1 Skyward Harp beats out the other two bows despite them being at a higher refinement, and it wasn't even close. The extra damage from Skyward Harp's passive wasn't even necessary to beat the other bow's damage output, but I am absolutely not going to complain about it. It's pretty obvious to see why this is listed as the best in slot for Venti. Too bad it's the best slot for most other archers. So basically, Skyward Harp, hands down, the better bow of the three that I've tested out, despite Skyward Harp being at R1, Stringless being at R2, and Windbloom Ode being at R5. The one thing to consider is that because Stringless was at R2 and Windbloom Ode is at R5, Windbloom Ode might just be a little better than or my Windbloom Ode might be just a little better than my Stringless. They have both the same amount of base attack and give the exact same amount of elemental mastery, so on that end they are tied. That being said, I still have a feeling in my gut, and the way things turned out, that Stringless at R2 is a bit better than Windbloom Ode at R5, just because Stringless boosts elemental skill and elemental burst, which is what you use Venti for the most part, whereas Windbloom Ode is just a buff to general attack, which would be interesting if you were using Venti as like a sub DPS using his normal attacks a bit or his charge attacks, but most people don't use him that way, so in that case I would go for a Stringless being the better weapon. And those are my final thoughts on that. And with that, this is the end of the video. Thanks for watching until the end if you have, and I hope you look forward to the next comparison, who will likely end up being Child, aka Tartaglia. And until then, adieu and goodbye.